then we will probably be trying to make it available to you, I'm hoping no later than the end of this week. I know I want to make sure that folks have it with at least a full couple of weeks before we get into November. We're also working on the templates for project budget and benefit cost analysis. I'll go over a couple of those with you in a few minutes. I know that some of you have used our benefit cost information. We have like a little spreadsheet to help calculate project benefits. Some of you may be familiar with it, some of you may not be, but I'll just walk through the basics of it. And we are, of course, since it's now 2 weeks, looking at the schedule implications. No decisions on that yet, but I'll probably be looking to push the deadline a little bit. But until that's officially announced, the deadline will remain December 15th. My apologies for my phone there. Let me turn that down. All right. Hopefully that's not too irritating if it keeps ringing. Trying to do this at my desk. Try to keep plugging away as much stuff as possible throughout the day. Again, our basic schedule, we're in the middle of the application period. I know y'all are anxious to get more information. We will be looking to conduct a follow-up with TxDOT and y'all in January, late December. Oh, I'm getting an indication that the slide is still on the title page. Let me see. Oh, there we go. Lisa, could you let me know if it now shows you a current schedule slide? All right, let me go back. I don't want to completely restate everything, but I'll just go back to the top, and we'll go from there. Still learning some of the webinar software, and sometimes I think it does things automatically that aren't too helpful. Again, we're going to cover the schedule of the Q&A sessions, give you a brief update on the application materials, and then get to our Q&A session. Again, some of you may have seen this at our last meeting. We have the schedule there each Monday at 2, except for November 4th, which is a Tuesday. I'm going to pause here. And again, we are recording this session, so we'll try to make sure it's available to you all. We may not post a link on our website, but we can at least make it available to the folks that are, as they register for this series, they can go back and listen to each webinar. Again, the application materials, I think it's still showing the screen okay. Templates under final review, I'll go over a couple of those with you today. And then the application website, we're nearing completion. Hope to have that available to you by the end of this week. I will also kind of overview for you what we have posted to our website. We did go ahead and post the Excel version of the application questions, just so everybody, I know a couple of sponsors really needed it so that they could advance some of their work. The state of Houston and Harris County, for example. I know TxDOT as well. We've made that available to everybody, so you can at least get started pulling the information together. It is not the official application. You'll have to do that through the online form, but you can at least begin pulling information together to organize it. We are looking at the schedule implications of having about a 2-week delay to access the online materials. Again, the current schedule, looking to complete the application period in December. Our follow-up would then follow for about a month or so, and then move into recommendation season with our TIP subcommittee in February. This aligns pretty well with where we are with the long-range plan, for those of you familiar with what we're having to do there. We'll be having a comment period associated with this call, of course, before we take any decisions to commit funding. And then looking at April or May still for our TPC action to approve funding commitments. And again, here's our contact information and the website where you can link to the call for projects as well as other TIP-related information. All of our amendments are posted there, that kind of thing. Again, I am the primary contact for HGAC. And Catherine McCright is the contact for TxDOT if you need any assistance or have questions for coordinating. You need some information from the environmental folks or anything like that. Catherine is your best contact to help facilitate and coordinate gathering that information and letters of support, all that kind of stuff from TechStop. Okay, I'm going to jump real quick and show you the website and the links that we now have posted there. All right, I'll just ask if somebody can tell me, can I see the website now? Does it show up all right? Yes, okay, very good. All right, so we've added these two links at the bottom. The workshop presentation from last week is posted in PDF format, so all the slides are here. I won't run through that, but I'll let you guys look at that. If we have any questions in a few minutes, we may come back and refer to these materials. And as I indicated, the Excel version of the application questions is also posted. And I'm not going to save that because I've got that up already. We did put a nice little disclaimer on there, just a warning to remind everybody that this isn't the application form itself, but it is intended to help you pull that information together. It's organized in the same way as the online application is presented. So again, we start with some pre-application questions, which are basic information about who's filling out the application, sponsor contact information, that kind of thing. Has the project been submitted before? And then those two key questions so that we know what additional information will be required from the applicant. So we need to know if the project qualifies for the use of a categorical exclusion and if it is exempt or not from transportation conformity. Those two questions, again, will tell us whether the project will follow the major investments track for those projects that cannot use a CE or are not exempt from conformity, or you'll fall into one of the other investments, more straightforward, a little streamlined application question process for what we're calling other investments. And I'll walk through those tabs in just a moment. Again, then the preliminary questions, these are common to all projects. We talked about the project narrative, trying to understand some details from sponsors on what the problem is that the project is intended to address, that kind of information. So it's really a purpose and needs section, which will help when the project completes its environmental process as well. And then this is where the readiness information comes in. What level of documentation is required, any permits that may be necessary for the project, and then our dates, when we expect 30% design to be complete, that kind of information. And then we also indicate here that we'll, of course, need the GIS or map information. Again, this is just to help folks start to compile the information that they will be submitting online. Of course, under the major investments, there's much more latitude to project sponsors for completing the narrative section of their application. I'll walk through the benefit cost piece for delay today. We'll come back and talk about some of the others, I think, next week. But for the major investments, looking for sponsors to describe things that might not fit into that benefit cost analysis under the 5 plan goals: safety, congestion, asset management operations, regional economic competitiveness, and natural and cultural resources. And of course, we expect some narrative text here, as well as you're free to attach maps or other graphics that may help illustrate the description of your project's benefits. Excuse me. Moving into the other investments, you'll see that the application turns into much more of a yes, no, or a select one kind of option. And where we expect some attachments or additional documentation is required, you'll note that we have kind of flagged that or specifically requested, hey, please attach the benefit cost analysis worksheet or budget or whatever the particular attachment will be. And again, it just walks through the criteria that is posted to our website and has turned it into question form so that you can see how that it will be organized in the online application form. I'm not going to go through all of these. They're all set up exactly the same way. I guess I'll pause there and see if anybody has any particular questions. And just as a reminder, for those of you that haven't used GoToMeeting before, you can either raise your hand and I can unmute your microphone. You can ask a question orally, or you can type in your question, and we'll go to it from there. Okay, not seeing any questions at this point. I'm going to take this moment to actually give out one of the polls that I forgot to put out there last week, just to get a sense from folks. If you don't mind, a poll screen should have popped up on your screen, and hopefully it should take just a few moments for folks to click in their answers. All right, I think everybody that's going to click in has. That's a pretty good range of folks. It's a fairly large number of folks that are going to be submitting a number of applications. So hopefully this Excel form will help you gather that information and keep it organized without having to create something on your own. I hope that you all find it useful. I'm going to go ahead and close the poll. All right, I talked about walking through two of the templates, and these are our draft, and we have not posted them yet. We're taking a final look at them. I'll start first with the budget worksheet, and hopefully that shows up on folks' screens. If somebody could type in and let me know if you can actually read that okay. It may be a little small. Okay, great. All right, again, modeled this pretty much straight off of the City of Houston's CIP page because it's a pretty straightforward presentation of the information. Again, just looking for a breakdown of the project expenditures, and we'll be clear, this is really the initiation of the activity, what we refer to as obligation. So we want to know when the planning or environmental phase will begin and funds would need to be committed to it. Same thing with the design, property or right-of-way acquisition, utilities construction, or other, for everything else that might fall in there. This will be a pretty unlocked spreadsheet, so if you need to add a row or something like that, that'll be okay. But again, as I mentioned, it's obligation-based, so while the cash flow and somebody's CIP might show, just for example, this construction might be $5 million in 1 year and $5 million in the next year. Along with the utility relocations, let's say, we're not going to be obligating funds spread out over time quite like that, depending on the project. Again, we are asking for where there may be constructible segments, and then where you have something like that, we might ask you to actually break out and give us, just for example, 2 construction lines, so that we might have phase 1 construction on 1 year and phase 2 on the other. And let's say that all utilities are here, just so that we can kind of understand how the construction might be moving forward. We want to take really the main activity we're advancing with that one authorization and have it in a specific year. at least for the purposes of this application. And then below the expenditures, we're looking at what sources of funds are being brought to the project. These are just some basic entries. Again, you'll be free to edit these to match whatever makes sense for you all. There may be a local option, a TERS funding source that you need to add or something like that, and this will be free and open. The only thing we'll be asking you to keep is really this requested line at the bottom, so we know, for example, in this case, that we want to see right, just as an example of how that might be broken down. I hope that kind of makes sense. We're trying to keep it as streamlined and straightforward and simple to fill out, but again, provide us enough information to see what additional actions might be necessary for the local commitment side of the funding to be available, and also the timing of when funds are going to be needed to move forward with the different project phases, and help us plan out for those high-scoring projects how the Lego pieces will all fit together. Are there any questions on the budget worksheet? Again, any feedback y'all can give us means that we can incorporate it into the initial distribution and make sure that we don't have to edit it at some point and ask you for more information. All right, not seeing anybody asking questions. I'll move on. Again, the third thing I was going to walk through with y'all, and this is probably really small, so I'm going to try to zoom in on it. And again, I will caution you, it is draft, but this is an updated version of our benefit cost analysis worksheet. And it looks for just a few basic pieces of information. Again, some project ID information. You'll be able to fill that the ID number in with your project number, for example. And then some basic cost information. I'm not too worried about that. We may actually strip this off because you're going to be providing the budget information. So it's not really relevant here. This worksheet is for calculating the benefit side of that analysis, and we can compare it to the requested investment. So the key piece of information that this spreadsheet works off of, again, it takes some assumptions from just a standard set, and these are the things we're going to make sure are consistent across all applications. Some of this stuff is redundant. We need to strip out of here. We're going to be consistent with Tiger and look at both the 7% and the 3% discount of benefits, so we can see what the range is. All projects will see this, so it won't change the answer so much, but it'll help us kind of give a range estimate when we're using raw values. But the vehicle occupancy rate is straight out of our model. It gets updated every so often based on survey data. The value of time is updated, and then we have some standard assumptions about days of the week that we're using for the analysis, and again the number of years to include in the analysis. This particular spreadsheet is set up to key off of when a project will be open to traffic. We're going to suggest using 2018 for everybody. The reason for that is we have made available some of the model information to help support analyses you may be doing with Synchro or something like that. We do have a loaded travel demand network that we'll be providing. And then it really just looks at the difference in hourly travel with and without the project. So this is a really crude example and just suggests that the project is generating 10,000 hours of delay reduction a day. So that's a pretty high volume facility. This would be like a 610 or a 45 south or 45 north or something like that, where we could really generate that level of delay reduction. And then it uses those differences to calculate off to the right what the annual delay savings are going to be. So again, 10,000 hours a day for 260 days gives me 2.6 million hours saved. And then computes that out to the value of delay. One moment, my apologies. My apologies. Okay, so again, using those basic value of time savings, the spreadsheet just basically multiplies out what that delay savings is going to be. Again, these are all in fixed year dollars, 2015 dollars. The spreadsheet then also takes what we've used as volume capacity information to escalate that benefit. So we are not looking at the raw delay benefit for 2018, 2025, 2035, 2040, all of those analysis years. We're really just looking at the closer in benefit, and then trying to simplify the analysis to escalate that based on the growth in the facility volume. We did this, again, really to try to simplify and streamline the process, knowing that trying to run the model multiple times, the full regional model multiple times for each project can be pretty cumbersome. And quite frankly, the delay benefits that we see on the very end of our analysis period out in 2030, 2035, 2040 get to be somewhat unreliable. The system is so congested that sometimes the answers are not what you would expect. So we would prefer using the closer in information as using it to estimate the delay reduction, and we escalate that based on the forecasted growth in volume on the facility. So just in this example, it would grow from a VC ratio of 0.8, which is pretty good, out to about a 1, which is fairly congested. Just as an example, we also, this spreadsheet would cap those benefits so that if the facility grows beyond capacity, essentially the benefits continue, but they're capped. So for example here, if we indicated that the future volume was higher than, that would be a 1.0, you will see in our analysis off to the right now, the 2030 number is a VC ratio of 1, and the remainder of them have capped out. The remainder of the years have capped out, as has the delay benefit. The recognition there is that once you become congested, you'll be seeking alternatives to this particular route, and our estimations may not be particularly reliable. We continue the benefit out for the full 20-year period, but the annual benefit itself is limited. Okay, so really some very basic information is required. Again, pretty much keeping the 2018 the same, and then looking at that annual delay reduction, and then a logical mechanism to increase it on an annual basis. We'll probably keep this part unlocked so you could enter in just directly an annualized growth rate instead, that you could document some other method for doing the escalation. And then the analysis really takes it from there and gives us off to the left the discounted delay benefits, again, in basically today's dollars at that 7% discount rate and the 3% discount rate. And as would make sense, a lower discount rate generates a higher value. Those delay benefits further out in time are reduced less. And that's about it for this spreadsheet. I know it's a lot of information. I'll cover a couple of questions that have popped up on the board here. And then I know we'll probably be spending more time in the weeks to come with any questions folks may have. Again, this is a spreadsheet to help you. If you use this template, it makes a lot easier for us to do the review. It's not to say that you couldn't do it another way, but we are going to be asking for the Excel supporting documentation with the formulas in there so that we can go through the process and see how it was calculated. We don't have to go back and try to recalculate something that you or your consultant may have done. It's a lot easier if we can just see it. All right. There's a question actually with the budget worksheet, which was our previous document. Is it required for major investments or other investments as well? That sheet was for the major investments, Luis. The other investments, I don't have that one up. I apologize on this machine, but it's essentially a lot. It's not quite this simple, but essentially it takes out a lot of the annual detail just so that we can see how much is necessary and where that funding is going to be required with some basic fiscal year information on timing if you're requesting support for other years, but really, again, trying to simplify that as much as possible for the other investments. All right, and then all right, Andy's asking a question about the ID number, CSJ, and POID. I think that's somewhat flexible, although I think what we'll likely do is add a field here so you can have your own local project number. So for TxDOT, you would use the CSJ number, but we will have one here that will track you back to, as I mentioned before, when you fill out the pre-application, the email you get back will tell you what your project application number is and the login password. So we'd like if you could punch that number in here. That would make it very easy for us to make sure it tracks back. Even if you had a copy and paste error or something like that for the name or something, that ID information would be very helpful. All right. And yes, Mark, we will be posting all of these, and not just the roadway delay, but a safety worksheet as well. And I'm working on one for the economic development as well. That'll try to do a pretty straightforward, similar kind of approach, allow you to enter in some annual benefits, and it'll do the discounting for you. You don't have to learn the math behind that. Let's see. Will HGAC provide individual, I guess that's basically model runs for the development of the benefit cost analysis? That's a tough question to answer off the top of my head. We do need to coordinate with our modeling folks. I will bring up a slide here that talks about the assistance we can provide and the timeline for it. I do want to make sure folks are aware there are support service we can provide. And if we can do a model run, I know we would love to. We're in the middle of doing the long-range plan update, and it consumes quite a bit of time, and the model takes a lot longer to run now. So I unfortunately can't commit that we'll be able to provide that support for every project. So asking for the assistance as early as possible will be very helpful. So again, I'm hopeful that folks can see this slide. But we talked about during the application period, really until basically Thanksgiving, we could accept requests. And most of this, again, the projects that we will be providing direct support for, or basically have to, are ITS projects. We'll be using the common IDAS modeling software to assess the benefits of those projects, and our pedestrian, bicycle, and livable centers initiative projects as well. We have a straightforward, automated, basically, GIS analysis that can produce that analysis. So again, really looking at basically the Thanksgiving time period, and as soon as we have the application online, we'll be blasting that out for you. We would like to have the narrative information so we understand the purpose and need and the description, what you're actually going to go do with the project, as well as the location information, the GIS map, so we know that we've got the correct location for the investment. Sometimes it seems maybe a little annoying, but I know sometimes limits do change, and sometimes that adjustment can be meaningful for the evaluation of project benefits, even when it seems like a small adjustment. All right. I think with that, that's all of the additional materials I was going to overview today with folks, and I just wanted to open it up and see if there are any other questions from those that were able to sign in. And again, you can type in the question, or if you can't find that raise your hand button, and you can type in a question. I'd like to, I've got a question I'd like to ask over the phone, and I can unmute you. Okay, great question from Mariana. I'm hopeful you can actually see the questions that have been entered into this thing, but if not, I'm going to repeat it. Mariana has asked if you'll need to upload the Excel version of the application questions, or if it's just to keep track for y'all. It's really for y'all to keep track of the information you're pulling together. The application, the online form will ask each of those questions, and you'll just pull down and select the right response, and then paste in the additional documentation or attach the supporting documentation for each question. So it's really, again, the Excel version is for you all to keep some information organized, and you can begin preparing that while we're finishing up getting the online application ready. It'll also allow you to share that information if you want somebody to review it. That's another benefit. That's why the City of Houston is using it. So that the folks that are developing projects within the corporate limits of the City of Houston, they can transmit some of that information to the city for their review process and not have to wait until they see the online application, which we can't make available to the city. All right. Well, folks may be thinking of a question. I've got one more poll. We've got only a couple of folks left us, so I've got one more poll to ask y'all today. And it's about what type of application you think y'all are going to be filling out. And this is complete as many as you'd like. So if you're going to do both a major investment and other projects, if you can check the boxes that are applicable to you, that would be greatly appreciated. All right, we'll give folks just another couple of seconds to fill in the poll. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close the poll. I don't see any other questions at this point in time. I'll hang on here for a few more minutes to see if anybody has a question. I don't think anybody else has joined us late either. But if you do have a question, please type it in, or you can raise your hand on the attendee panel, and I can unmute your line, and you can verbally ask your question. Okay, I don't see any other questions at this point, so I'll thank you all very, very much. I appreciate your support and your questions. Thanks for participating and joining us today. We'll, again, send you all a link to this webinar, at least I think a storage area where you can view this later if you have any questions. And Andy did ask a question on the webinar materials available on the website. Last week's, we're still in the process of getting that video prepared. Unfortunately, we had a little snafu, some operator error on the first few slides. I've had to record the first 3 or 4 slides, and GoToWebinar is not behaving well with me. I'm going to try a different machine today to see if we can get that resolved so we can get the full video posted for those that were not able to join us for the application workshop. Again, the slides are posted, but we'll get the video posted soon. And we'll also include a link to this webinar series, the weekly Q&As, for folks to register. And there they'll be able to look at the each week's Q&A session for the weeks that they may not have participated in already. All right. Well, thank you all very much. I appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and close out our webinar.